in the US that we would have those games to. The other thing is the future. And for me, as a board game publisher, I would love to have a more diversified by chain where I included some China, or at least assemble some products here in the US. But the government could incentivize and subsidize not for making some components in China that we simply can't make here in the US.
What support, what incentives do you need specifically?
Example of this is right now, if I want to make a game box for the US, maybe I want to make some of the in China that I can't make here in the US, but I want to make a box here in the US and I want to handle assembly for game here in the US. Just for that box here in the US would cost almost the entire cost of the entire game if I make it in China. And so if the government would help subsidize the cost of that box, then they can at least take the first step and bring the construction of the box and the assembly of the product to the US. That's a great first step that needs to take. But I would need some help to do that instead of dipping into our cash reserve to pay for repair on products that's already made in the US.
That's my last question. If these keep going, if this 145% tariff on any product comes to China continues, what happens to your company?
For now, we're treading water, weathering the storm. We're taking a more conservative approach to the amount of games that we decide to make for the holiday Christmas, which is going to start soon. If they hold for months or even years, it will probably be largely the end of most board game publishers. At the very least, we sell 35% of our products to countries outside the US, so we might just be a smaller company that sells to other countries instead of to retailers and customers in the US.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate your time.
Hey, let's go somewhere fun. Where AAA can take us. Let's go get stuck in the sand. Let's go sleep under the stars. Let's go for dinner and a show. No kidding. And let's go stay at a hotel for laughs. Okay, let's bring the kids. But first, let's get this fixed.
Your 24/7 roadside assistance, trip planning, hotel discounts, and more, you're always ready to go. AAA, your membership to go.
We all hope for a fulfilling life, but for 20% of us, anxiety and depression can get in the way. Brightside mental health providers understand and can help you. Take steps forward and feel like yourself again, feeling together at brightside.com. National University was built for innovation with flexibility and use because we know you need to be everywhere. Whether you find community within the commons, a digital space for student engagements, and using augmented reality to turn virtual lessons into hands-on experiences. National Universities make education more accessible, so you can connect with your classmates, your professors, and your institutions. This reason is only here to let you use it.
To the vitamin mineral states of the same thing, woman speaking and briefing day. Say the lyrics is going to CNN says many attack is 59%. These last thing is 6%. This is for the next compared to 27% who say that they have convictions and 18% who said that they have no fact. These are pretty dismal numbers for President Donald Trump. What's it on an ACH?
Straight is so easy from the president's first 100 days back in the White House. The Dow has dropped nearly 4,000 points since the inauguration, resulting in trillions of dollars in losses for investors. More now from CNN Alone Trade.
Although administration is leaning in heavily at this week to mark the first 100 days on Monday, they chose to focus on immigration.
Trade proposals.
Seeing administration officials kind of behind the scenes is really a bright spot for Trump right now in his second run. That's why you saw the
Anticipate he'll be facing so much status of these deals. We heard on Monday say that he believes India could be the first country that they would strike a trade deal with. That deal
focused so heavily on talking about the number of deportations to this point, compared to the Biden administration at the same point last year. You saw the White House reporters are come home and speak in a briefing on Monday morning, but on Tuesday, the focus is going to shift to the economy. And it comes with CNN has new polling that shows many Americans, 59%, believe that the Trump administration has worsened conditions for the economy. That's compared to 27% who say that they have improved conditions and 14% who said that they have no effect. Look, these are pretty dismal numbers for President Donald Trump, particularly on an issue that he had vowed to repeatedly on the campaign trail to improve. He often said he was going to be ushering in the golden age for America. There would be economic revival, but these poll numbers show that Americans remain broadly unhappy with where the economy is. This illusion his trade policy. Now, of course, all of this comes as the stock market has been kind of ping-ponging, but people are questioning what is going to happen with these tariffs. And despite the White House saying that they've had 100 countries approach them with trade proposals, we haven't seen any hard evidence or tangible evidence of what those deals will look like. Now, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, is expected to give a briefing Tuesday morning to talk about this. You can anticipate he'll be facing a lot of tough questions from reporters on the status of these deals. We heard him on Monday say that he believed India could be the first country that they will strike a trade deal with, and it will come as soon as this week or next week. But again, a lot of people are running out of patience. We have in this poll as well that 6 in 10 Americans are saying Trump's policies have increased the cost of living in their communities, and just 12% say his agenda has helped bring prices down. And one of the most striking things in all of this, to me at least, is how different this is from the president's first term, when he used to dictate some of his policy based on how it was performing in the stock market. We know that Trump has said his base, but also privately that he's willing to have Americans, deal with a little bit of short-term pain, and that he genuinely believes in the long run the economy will even itself out. But again, this has been one of the areas that hasn't been a bright spot for this administration, and it also comes as we know that he's been frustrated with the status of talks with certain countries, including on China, which has really dug in position trade policy. All of this, as we know that the Trump administration officials, and in my conversations with them, argue that behind closed doors, they notice that the first 100 days is really when you're able to get a lot through and have more leeway, particularly when you look at Republicans in Congress are responding to some of this. And now some of the attention will quickly turn to wanting to make sure the policy is in the right place before the midterm elections. All of this weighing on the president's first 100 days.
And our politics lead, CBS News premier show, 60 Minutes, addressing kind of the surprise executive producer Bill Owens last week. Here's actor Scott Pelley at the end of last night's show.
Our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger the Trump administration must approve. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories have been blocked, but Bill felt we lost the independence that honest journalism required. No one here is happy about it.
It's interesting. It says none of our stories have been blocked. That's not the same thing as none of our stories has been meddled in. Two different things. President Trump, of course, has repeatedly called for CBS to lose its license and has urged the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, to punish the broadcaster after it claimed that CBS News distorted an interview with then Vice President Harris last year at the campaign's direction. There's no evidence for that, and what 60 Minutes did appears to be basic editing of a long-winded politician, as Fox does to President Trump sometimes. CBS News parent company, Paramount, have agreed to a mediator in President Trump's lawsuit against CBS News. Terry Redstone, the primary Paramount shareholder, is hoping that moves as she eyes a multi-billion-dollar deal to sell Paramount in this merger. It's a sale that would need the Trump administration's ultimate sign-off via the FCC. These talks are expected to start with a settlement in the news distortion lawsuit this week, according to the New York Times. Legal experts have called the case, quote, frivolous and dangerous. Joining us now is one of the 4 people leading the FCC, Commissioner Ana Gomez, who was appointed by President Biden in 2023. So there are 2 things going on here, Commissioner. The FCC plays a role in both. The FCC has to approve this merger that Paramount wants. in which Jerry Redstone would make a lot of money. And the FCC separately investigated a complaint about this same interview from a pro-Trump group, this interview with Kamala Harris. And your chairman says it's potentially a serious issue, this separate issue. Do you think that the two are connected in any way?
So what we have for this complaint, as you mentioned, of news distortion by this separate group. The staff of the FCC, the experts of the FCC, actually dismissed the complaint earlier this year, but the current chair reinstated the complaint, stating that it needed further investigation. So let's be clear, what this administration is doing is it is on a campaign to censor and control. And in particular with broadcasters, it is harassing them into in their covering in the way that they want it to be. As you know, we have a transaction before us. I can't really speak to the merits of that transaction because it's still pending.
You're talking about the merger.
I'm talking about the merger.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that there is no case of news distortion in the 60 minute interview or the clips that were shown before the interview of Kamala Harris.
So you said that this is amounts to censorship. The Trump administration and the conservatives behind the MAGA movement, they all say that they're in favor of free speech, that they're big free speech absolutists. But so how can it be that they're doing censorship?
We have to remember that what the First Amendment prohibits is government interference in the free speech of citizens, the freedom of speech of companies, and the freedom of speech of the press and how they cover news. So what they are doing is attempting to censor. They do it by killing free speech. Companies are thinking twice about what they say. They don't want to aid the administration. And we're already hearing that broadcasters are starting to at least look at how it is that they are providing to their viewers because of fear of retribution, or in this case, because there isn't a financial interest in closing the transaction.
So President Trump, I think, is suing CBS News for $20 billion, I believe. I've heard figures bandied about by informed news sources that it could be as much as $50 or $70 million that Paramount Global settled with President Trump. Obviously, we know that Disney settled with Trump when he sued ABC News for $16 million, I think. If there is a settlement in this case, in the CBS News case, but you say this is not a legitimate case of news distortion, what kind of precedent do you think that sets by if Paramount Global and Jerry Redstone actually do that?
The danger of manipulation by any entity that capitulates to demands to censor or chill speech leads further capitulation. So my sincere hope is actually that we're heard and that people will stand up and push back against the administration because, as you said, there is no case of news distortion here. News distortion requires intentionality by the licensee, which is actually a local broadcaster, to distort the facts. And it's very difficult to prove a case of news distortion, which is why it's in the FCC. Usually find or ever found. So in fact, that we will see more courage and we will see more pushback against this administration as we have in other contests. Again, this administration is on a campaign for control and censorship. And you see it throughout the administration, not just you see the FCC is being weaponized with its licensing authority against the broadcast. But you have an administration that's arresting protesters because of their campus protests, is telling the Smithsonian what they can exhibit because otherwise it might be ideology. It's going out. Their lawyers themselves are upset with or another. It's going after diversity and inclusion, which includes First Amendment components and what it is that you say and who you can affiliate with. It's going after all sorts of entities in just to control and to censor. And so I am really thankful that people will be courageous, that broadcasters so courageous and stand up for a pillar of of our constitution, of our democracy, which is the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press, to hold administrations to account and not fear retribution from this.
All right, Commissioner Gomez, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Free screens. Nuclear facility. Relationships and vacations are at stake. These issues. Tina Fey does a quintuple duty as co-creator, co-showrunner, executive producer, writer, and co-star of the series. The 4 seasons begin streaming on Netflix May 1st.
This is so labor intensive because everything has to be hand selected. You know, you find the most tender petals.
7th season of Lucky Chow finds explorer host Daniel Chang in Taiwan for foodie-focused finds and explorations of culture. Lucky Chow premieres May 1st with new episodes weekly on PBS stations, PBS Passport, and the PBS app. We know what it means to go back there. Why?
I hear this island's got no law. The question is, you're gonna keep it that way?
Egan and Maggie are back in the 2nd season of The Walking Dead, Dead City. The post-apocalyptic drama finds the characters back in a zombie-infested Manhattan. The Dead walk again starting May 4th on AMC and AMC Plus. In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damagello.
We have yet another indicator that Americans are struggling to cover basic everyday expenses. A new survey from LendingTree shows a quarter of those getting buy now, pay later loans use them for groceries. Now, that number was 14% just 1 year ago. These are short-term interest-free loans that let people pay in installments. Experts worry that they encourage shoppers to buy more than they can actually afford. CNN's Matt Egan joins us with the details, and this speaks to one of the biggest issues now consuming Americans, and that is what is happening with prices at the grocery store, how these tariffs are going to impact them. Tell us more about this new information.
Yeah, Deanna, that is obviously a big concern right now, and this survey doesn't even fully sort of the impact of the trade war and the potential price increases from tariffs. But it is another indicator that Americans are feeling stressed right now financially, right? Because they're essentially using borrowed money to buy essentials. So this survey from LendingTree found that about 1 in 4 buy now, pay later borrowers say that they use these short-term loans to purchase groceries. And as you mentioned, that's up significantly from a year ago. And yes, buy now, pay later has exploded in popularity because you mentioned, interest rates typically these loans, they do let people break up their payments into installments, which is very convenient. But there is this concern that it's so easy that it's going to cause people to take on more than they can afford. Now, other categories beyond groceries that have been popular with buy now, pay later users include buying furniture, clothes, electronics, beauty products. And one item that's actually not on that list is the 16% of people who say they use buy now, pay later for delivery, for food delivery, or for food takeout. Think about that for a minute. Also, Billboard recently reported that more than half of the people who attended Coachella, they bought their tickets using buy now, pay later, which is also pretty striking. And as you noted, this comes at a time when not only are prices high, but the cost to borrow is high too. Now, what's hard to understand here is how much of this is happening just because buy now, pay later is a relatively new and convenient option, and how much of it is happening because people are having trouble making ends meet. Now, one telling finding from the survey is the fact that a growing share of buy now, pay later borrowers say that they've paid late, especially younger Americans. More than half, 57% of Gen Zers say they've paid late in the past year. About 50% of millennials as well. So higher income folks are more likely to say that they paid late here. So I do think that when you take a step back, this is another reminder that beyond those solid national economic numbers, women and consumer spending, there are some yellow lights that are flashing.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty about what the future holds and what, if anything, comes out of these tariff negotiations, how that impacts everyday Americans and businesses. Matt Egan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's funny because a lot of people are here the name for around and they think about being pretty last, and that
it can have a little bit of a negative connotation to it. I think for me, I always looked at it as an opportunity. Like this was an opportunity to pursue my lifelong dream was getting to play professional football. And so I didn't really care how I got my start. I knew was that I was getting up to her.
Can you tell me what happens when you become Mr. Irrelevant?
Yeah. So, okay. Well, to start, they have this thing called the Irrelevant League. It's out of Newport Beach, California. It's really a week. It's at least a week long deal where they're going to kind of roast you and toast you. And when you are a place kicker and you have my last name, they have a lot of interest. And so they go out, they celebrate you, they roast you, they make fun of you. You just got to be able to laugh at yourself. You got to have thick skin. But it really is a special week. It's fun. I'll never forget. It's at the Balboa Yacht Club out in Newport Beach, and the whole town kind of comes out. You can remember kind of thinking I'm sitting up on one of those big lifeguard chairs on the beach, and all these people are celebrating you and bringing you all these gifts. And I'm kind of sitting there going, man, what in the world am I doing right now?
There's a trophy you get for being Mr. Irrelevant, which I think might be on the shelf behind you. Is that right? Do I see the Lozeman trophy there?
You know what? I don't know that that's the Lozeman. I think that may be different, but I do know the Lozeman that you're talking about, and kind of a makeup of the Heisman. But
I'd be happy to. I have this 1894.
Maybe something like a
This ancient Greek owl. Bob and Bro. And from my siblings. Appreciate this more in retrospect from my siblings, Brenda, Sean, and Brian. Values that I learned on the ice from my coaches. So I met with Canadians and communities. And ambition, it's Canada after all. And unity, it's Canada. Right back. These are good values. These are Canadian values. I'm a applause lighting system, taking it back. Over my responsibility for me, as I stand before you this evening, humility in recognizing that, well, many have chosen to place trust in me, trust in the Liberal Party. Millions of our fellow. And my message to every Canadian is this: no matter where you are, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you vote, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada